Okay, so welcome to another video episode of Art Source, and what I'm going to be focusing on today is the Golden Pastel Ground. And so we're going to look at a variety of ways to do this, and I tried to do a Facebook Live this weekend at one of my workshops, and it didn't record. So for those that were interested in the technique, I thought I would move through an episode here. So I'm going to be working on an Ampersand artist panel, and so this is a gessoed series that's ready, and it's cradled, so it's got a 1/4 inch cradling on here, or 3/4 inch cradling on here. And so this is a 12 by 12, but I'm going to be working on a little bit larger piece, and I've already got some imagery and things on here just set up for the demo itself. But you can see it's a rigid panel, and I've got a variety of color down. So you can gesso a set color on here. I've taken the liberty of putting some golden fluid acrylic, some iridescent bright gold on some of the sections, just to create some color patterning for the background and also give it a little sheen and interest. So the first thing that I'm going to be showing you how to do, we're actually going to back up and use a little bit of soft gel gloss, and this is a great adhesive for collage materials. So you can see on here I've already got a couple of collage elements that have been applied, and I'm trying a little bit of a variety of techniques on this board. So I've actually drilled some holes into it and done a couple of other things as I'm using it as a practice board. But what I've got here is I've got a collage element that's already been adhered to it using the soft gel gloss. So I'm going to show you how to actually do that. This is already dry, and so I'm going to take the soft gel gloss and I'm going to just use a palette knife. You can see it's kind of got a creamy yogurt texture, and I'm going to take my palette knife and I'm actually just going to apply where I might want my collage element to be, and I'm going to just make it thin enough so that you can, it's barely translucent, and I can just kind of save the excess in here. And I'm going to do a piece just, again, big enough for my actual collage element to be adhered. So I'm going to actually oversize it just a little bit. And then you can smooth that a little bit more. You can actually take any imagery, collage paper, etc. In this case, I'm just going to use a little bit of vintage paper. It's the same tone as what's already been applied, but I just kind of tore out an image here. And I'm just going to collage it by adhering it into the adhesive. And it's not quite big enough for the image, so I'm going to take just a little bit more, and we're just going to give it a little bit of to make sure that it fits on there in the dimensions. How's that? That's good. Okay, and I'm just going to lay that bad boy right down on there. And then I'm going to take this very expensive tool here. It's an old gift card, and I'm going to start from the center of the piece, and I'm going to work my way out so that I can move any air bubbles out of the collage. And I'm just going to go in this direction, and I'll go ahead and scoop up the excess here so that it's a nice clean surface when we're done. And I'm just going to take a paper towel and wipe off the excess, or you can use it, you know, in other areas. But I've got a nice, clean, smooth surface here. And then that's the collage element of the piece. You can also use catalyst scrapers. Those are some of my favorite rubber scrapers that I use to smear on items. Now, this piece is already dried, so I've done the same process as here, but this is already dried, and I've actually put paint over a little bit of it just so that you can see the variance. I also drilled holes here, and then I filed them down so it'd be a nice smooth, because I'm just looking for dimension and texture here. So with all that said, now I'm going to move into the second phase. So I've got my surface treated. I've got any paint or embellishment or anything that I want to add to it. And now I'm going to add some of the pastel ground, and I'm going to do it in the same fashion. So you can see this too still has a yogurt-like texture. And what I'm going to do is take my clean palette knife. So I'm going to just wipe off the soft gel gloss we just had, and I'm going to apply it in the same fashion where I just take a little scoop, and I'm going to go over the area that I want to have a little bit of tooth or texture. So you can see this is a little bit more of a thick consistency. It's just got a little bit more grab and hold than the soft gel gloss alone. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere it over the holes that I've created and some over the paint. And I'm just going to extend so that it goes into that gold as well. And just, you know, really letting the palette knife show the marksmanship and the texture in there. So I'm just going to kind of dip and dab and get some of that variety. Okay. And just let the ridges show. Then I'm going to clean off the palette knife. So just using my paper towel here and just wiping off so that it stays clean. It's a whole lot harder to clean if you wait until after the object is dry. And then I can just take like the back of a brush and I'll just kind of acknowledge my little holes here. So get a little smaller brush to do that one. But I'm just going to scoop out because I want to keep my holes fresh and clean. Let's see if this size will do it. Yep. Okay, so now I've got my embellishment back, but now everything's got a surface covered that has a little bit of the tooth from the pastel ground. So I'm going to let that dry. And then what I'll end up with is something similar to this section down here. Now this already has a little bit of paint on it. It definitely has the pastel ground already, has been applied. So I've already put it here and it's dried and it's got like a gritty, almost like a light sandpaper feel to it. So then I can come back on top of that and use a little bit of pastel. And so I've got some pastel here that I can just pick any color. So I'm going to set those aside. And because it's a nice gold texture, let's do like a wild orange color. Okay, and I can do some mark making actually on the house to create some embellishment around. So it'll hold and grab some strict mark making, but I can also take a little bit of a softer color. I'll just use a different type of gold, and I can just rub sideways and see how this is picking up more of a bright gold texture on top of the paint that's already been added, but it also can adhere on top of the image. And you can see where it's picking up some of the texture where it was on just the plain board as well. And I'll just skirt around the image there just to create a little bit. And then I can even use it like a coloring book, so to speak, where I can come back in and embellish the drawing. So I can just kind of trace over. You know, maybe if you're feeling not so confident about drawing skills, you can lay a collage element down and then just kind of trace the darkness or the colors on top. And just add some grounding here. But see, the palette knife work shows up because of the way it was applied, and those ridges come up also. And that's a lot of what we have here too, is I've kind of layered up in case you're wanting to do some abstraction. Or you want to have more of a variety, you can just layer up and overlay. And then one additional thing that you can do is you can use some rubbing alcohol as a wash in the background so that you can actually soften some of the layers in the back. And I have some here that I can use. It's just a regular 70% alcohol. And I'm just going to dip right into the container here. And I can come back and just apply as a wash so that it covers up the light value of the painting, so that it kind of adheres that wash to the back. You see how it just kind of covers up any of that light value that's still existent. And it dries super quick too, so you know, now I have that as a back layer. As soon as it dries, which won't take long at all, then I can go back and adhere some more pastel to the surface of it. So with all that in mind, those are just some different sample layers to show you how you could build up. So again, we have the soft gel gloss as a collage element. Then we have the pastel ground that was applied to give us the tooth. And then here's the final piece where the soft gel gloss and the pastel ground have both dried. And now we have a layering effect that we can continue to build up. And so of course this can be combined with paint as an underneath layer. You can see the iridescent that's shining through. Another way that you can use it is as a learning tool. So in this particular case, I've taken this succulent poster and I've used this soft gel gloss in the same manner in which I've adhered this poster to the cardboard backing that came with it. And then I've taken a little bit of pastel ground and palette knife and I've actually put it on here atop the image. And even though it looks opaque in the beginning, it dries to a transparent so that I could see through to the actual succulent image. And then what I can do is I can, pick some color matching that I want to try and mimic within the image. So maybe, it's a little bit of pink and I can come over top and put a little bit of the pink pastel here. Maybe I'll put a little bit here. Maybe I'll turn it sideways and just get a little bit of that action going on. And I'm, saying maybe perhaps that's too pink. Maybe I want it a little bit softer. Maybe I wanted it more purple. So I can very easily take a light lavender, a grayed out color, and I'll just come and rub the pastel over, and I could subdue or soften that pink image, and it just really grabs hold of the pastel, but still again leaves that palette knife work visible. I can soften down this pink a little bit, make it a little more gray. And then another thing is that I can use again the alcohol wash. So if I wanted to come in and soften down some of the colors, I could just use a little bit of my rubbing alcohol and just dip right in and adhere some of the wash to the image so that I could get a base color down. And then I can just put the pastel on top of it when it dries. And that's what's happened here is we've washed it down with rubbing alcohol. And there's a lighter green section up here that has been washed down with rubbing alcohol, so you can see the full scope of what's going on. And down here, even though this had a little bit of the gold residue from the previous demo on it, you can see as it dries, it lightens in color. So that is